Hey, founders. I'm here with Emeric, CEO and founder of Agorapulse. And the question today is, how do you build a $20 million startup? Not just build, bootstrap. We're talking bootstrap, no VCs, no institutional investment, bootstrap a $20 million a year startup, $20 million a year in revenue. And I'm excited because I've known Emeric for months now, and we've never really gotten to talk about this. So I've twisted his rubber arm to come on board and tell us all the stories, especially in today's funding environment. I just posted some news on the startups.com Slack and in the communities about how early stage funding is slowing down and how so many founders think that they need to go get VC money. And we're always warning everybody, VC money is going to change your life, but not in a good way. How do you bootstrap? How do you build it from the ground up? Especially, I'm interested to talk to Emeric about his thoughts on social media today. We're going to just, jump right into it. Emeric, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate having you.
Thank you, Ed, for having me. I mean, I'm excited to talk about the topics that you're excited about because those are topics very dear to my heart. So
fantastic. Let's jump into it. So how about giving an introduction? What is Agorapulse? Just, the quick elevator pitch, and then we can talk about how you got started all the way back. Actually, how about the first question? What were you doing before? So what's Agorapulse, and what were you doing before you decided to do Agorapulse?
okay, so Agorapulse is a social media management software. You guys probably know about Hootsuite. That has been the first self-serve player on the market starting in 2009. We did start in 2011. You guys probably also know Buffer. I think Buffer started also in 2009. So that's our space, that's our industry. We are the largest player built out of France, one of the largest built out of Europe. We are in the self-service space, i.e. you can come in and put your credit card, and for $99 a month, you use us. Not on the enterprise space where you absolutely have to talk to a sales person to get the pricing and get your account set up. That's the industry, that's the space we're playing in. And what makes us unique, because that's what really matters, is that we have a tool that helps social media people, but more importantly, marketers and their bosses, the CMOs and the VP of marketing that they're working for, measure the ROI and the business impact of their social media work. So that we're the first tool on the market doing this. We actually patented what we had to build to deliver on that. And that's making us unique on the market. Like if you're interested, and that does not interest everyone, by the way. If you're a media, you probably don't give a crap about measuring ROI. But if you're e-commerce, if you're B2B, if you're measured by any mean by the number of leads that you bring to the business, or this number of the revenue you bring to the business, or the number of downloads of your latest amazing marketing asset, you'll probably care about that. So that's what separates us from the rest. And what did I do before I started Agorapulse in 2011? We had another SaaS software that we started in July of 2000 that was called Affinities. And for those of you who've been around long enough, Affinities was basically the equivalent of Ning, which is now Ginia Benkini started Ning. And Ning was bought, not in a fire sale or something. And then she started, the name is, it's a community, it's a tool that helps you build communities for yourself. And the name is not coming back to but it will come back to my memory. And basically it was a tool allowing you to create community spaces for your business, for your, if you were selling to people who were passionate about, handcrafting stuff, like you would build handcrafting workshops using our platform to have communities of different, types of handcraft and that kind of stuff. We had communities for the military, for an insurance that was targeting the military. So every military unit had its own community. So it was basically a software allowing you to build a community space with photo sharing, chat, document sharing, directory, file sharing, forums, all that stuff. And that's something we built in 2000. The baseline of the product was your communities on the web, like in life. and it was in French. So I'm doing a live translation because at the time we were French only. That was a big mistake. And we launched in France. That was a big mistake as well. It was too early. It was the wrong country, the wrong language. And basically our promise was the one that Facebook built in 2004, 4 years later, because in 2000 communities were places where people who didn't know each other were meeting around a common passion, common center of interest. And they had, nicknames. They never used their real identities. That's how communities were in 2000 to 2004. And then Facebook came around and said, well, no, community should be about real people using their real name and connecting on the web based on the real life connection that they already have. And that was our concept in 2000. But do that in the wrong country and the wrong time, and you fail. That's what happened to us. So that's what I was doing before Agorapulse. And before that, I was a M&A business lawyer working for an American law firm in Paris. And I did that for 5 years.
Okay, so Agorapulse isn't your first startup. M&A lawyer, pretty swanky job. You could have just stayed in that. You made a lot of money. M&A lawyers. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So what made you decide I'm going to jump into the real risky proposition of being a startup founder?
Oh, number one, you don't know what you're getting into.
True.
No entrepreneur know what he or she is getting into, right? You've been you've had your own ventures as well. You told me earlier you sold them. You didn't know. When you start something, it's all about rainbows and unicorn. It's going to be amazing. You're so excited. You have that amazing idea. Everybody's going to love it. It's going to work. It's going to you're going to crush it, and so on and so forth. So you don't know. That's number one. It's very obvious to me that if I had known in July of 2000 what the next 10 years would look like, I would have never, ever started a business. Never. It was so hard that I would have stayed in my $15,000 a month lawyer job and just get to $35,000 a month and have a BMW X whatever and have a fancy house in a nice neighborhood and my kids in a private school. That's what would have happened to me for sure. But I didn't know what I was getting into. And once you get into that, that's one thing with entrepreneurs. We're all a little crackos up there. Yes. I mean, you have to admit, you have to be different.
Full confession.
Not necessarily always in a good way. To basically get at something again and again and again, despite rejection, getting no's all the time, failing, and seeing all your friends making more money than you, having more success than you, and keeping at it, you have to be a little bit crazy. You call that crazy, or you call that obsessed, or you call that, relentless, whatever word you're using, but that's what makes you keep going and keep going. The one thing I also, because there was thinking and thought process at the time, say, okay, I'm in the service business. Lawyer is a service business. I don't like the lack of scalability. I don't like the lack of freedom. And I don't like the fact that I'm not building an asset that I can eventually monetize for my retirement or for freedom or for more freedom or anything like that. So when you're a lawyer and you're in a service business, you work your ass off. If you're a workaholic like I am, if work is really important in your life, that was my case already at 25, 26, you're going to work hard, whatever happens. You work for someone else, you're going to work hard, because not working hard is not who you are. So I knew I would work hard, and I knew that if I do that in a service environment, I will not create an asset that I can give to my children or sell and get the money and give that money to my children. I will not have freedom because I will be the service giver. And if I'm the service giver, people are going to come to my business and tell me, I want to work with you, that lawyer, Emeric Ernoult, because I heard him and whatever. And that's the guy I want to work with. So you don't have the freedom because people want you. They want your product, which is a separate thing from you. They want you as the service provider. So I knew freedom wouldn't be part of my life if I stayed in that environment. And finally, I also knew that, if I'm sick, if I'm away on vacation, if I burn out and I need a month to recover, whatever, I'm not going to bill those hours. I'm not going to get that revenue, and I'm going to be stressed. So basically, I need to keep cranking the hours to stay in business. When you have a product and that's the myth. The product works for you, the team works for you, and you can take a month off. And it's a myth because you never do that. And it's a myth. It's a story you're telling yourself. I'll have so more freedom. I will not have a boss. Well, you have many bosses. They're called employees. and or business angels or clients. All these are your bosses, and you never take that month off. That's not true until you sell the business, and then maybe you take 2 months off, and then you get bored, and then you want to start another business. So yeah, that's why I kept at it for all these years, because I was obsessed by having something that eventually works out.
So what happened between that venture and Agorapulse? Like, I could think that maybe Agorapulse was a pivot, or was it just completely shut it?
Yeah.
Okay, it was a pivot.
Yeah. It was a pivot. So what happened? It's 10 years, so it's long. But basically, if I had to summarize it in 1 minute, I would say I failed for 10 years. Like, that's what you need to keep in mind. I didn't pay myself for 10 years. So I did, tax filings, and went to do demos and get clients. And I did all that stuff on top of taking another job to pay myself, because I didn't have one. So I was running companies for ex-clients of mine, whom I used to be their lawyer, and I was doing that Monday through Thursday, and on Friday I was working Affinities. That was the name of the business, and I was going on demos on my little scooter across Paris, and so on and so forth. Just to give you an idea, at the end of those 10 years, we were in 2010. At the end of 2010, the revenue of Affinities was $150,000 per year. Today, it takes me 3 days to make that kind of money. Back then, it was a year of revenue. So just to give you the context of the framework, of the context of things, it's a bit crazy when I think about it. And it took me 10 years to get there.
Okay, wait. Okay, that is crazy. So again, the richness of your story is definitely coming out. So 10 years you are doing Affinities, and you are really bootstrapping. We're talking multiple jobs, things like that. As an M&A lawyer, you had to have had connections to say, hey, write me a check for 200 grand or this and that. Like, you could have easily gone on a fundraise. What made you decide to fund it the way that you did and work the way you did?
Yeah, I did. I had two friends who gave me $15,000 in 2000. So we started with 30,000 in 2001. And I went back to these two friends and another friend in 2009. And back then they gave me $15,000. So we got 30 in 2001, and then we got 45, something like that in 2009. I mean, in today's fundraise, it's pocket money. This is nothing. You basically, in San Francisco, you bend and you find $45,000 on the streets. But for us, it allowed us to survive. Again, my partner and co-founder didn't pay himself for a long time. I didn't pay myself. So it was basically to pay the servers and like the bare minimum. Remember, in 2000, there was no Amazon AWS. So you had to go buy a freaking server and put it in your car and go pay a shelf somewhere in a hosting company. And the money we used the money to pay for that. And of course, we put some of our savings back then as well. What you need to understand, during those 10 years, we pivoted Affinities, the model of Affinities, at least 3 times, or at least twice. First of all, it was a B2C business, 100% based on advertising. Then the internet bubble burst, and then there was no more advertising model for any company whatsoever. So we had to change and become a B2B model. So we started to see, okay, we're going to take that technology and sell it white label to brands who want to build their own community spaces for their own needs. And then we had some people who came and say, oh, we want to do collaborative spaces to work collaboratively with a team. Oh, so we did that, and we white label that. And then I went on my little scooter across Paris trying to sell more of that. But my first contract for selling this was 40,000 French francs, because it was before the euro, and 40,000 French francs is like 7,000 euro a year. And that was a ton of money for me at the time. When you're not paying yourself and all you have to pay is the servers and the bandwidth for the hosting company, that's fine. You can go on for 2 years with that kind of money. But that's what it was. And then I started selling more and more of that until 2008. So that was from 2002, basically early 2002 to 2008. In 2008, Facebook was becoming a thing. And I saw that growing, and I said, oh, that's Facebook is actually going to go over MySpace. And it's really a thing. And the thing is, when I was going to brands trying to sell my, hey, build your own community thing, they were like, nah, we want to go on Facebook. And so I really had a sense that, okay, Facebook, is something brands start to understand and business start to understand. So they're going to start understanding the value of building their own community, because now they see that it's working. That was my bet. So I quit the job I had back then, the 4-day week job. That actually was, I was working 7 days a week for a long time. My marriage didn't resist to that. My first marriage definitely went overboard because of me being totally obsessed by that. No question on that. And I quit that job that I had, and I go all in again, saying, okay, they're going to understand that communities are important. I'm going all in again. I hired someone at the time. That's when I did the fundraising in 2009 with my additional business angel on the affinities business. And what happened is that the market was not interested by building their own thing. What they wanted is to build something on top of Facebook. And that's why the pivot happened in 2010. Basically, I said, okay, this is too hard. I thought Facebook was up in our market and our chances. It did not. It actually opened opportunities for Facebook, but not for me. And by random luck, I was speaking at a conference. A lady came to me and said, "Hey, I love what you're saying about communities and business and all that stuff. Can you do Facebook contests?" And say, "Yeah, I can do that." Went back to the office and tell my team and my co-founder, "Hey guys, go check this Facebook API thing, because apparently we can make 15,000 euro, and we needed cash more than everything." So, and we built it. Our developers were amazing. My co-founder was amazing. In a week, they had something up and running. We saw that. A lot of people saw it because it was very successful. We built a second, a third, a 10th, a 15th. We basically became an agency building contests and promotions on Facebook. We hated it. It was back to service. I remember 12 years earlier, 10 years earlier, I left a service business because I didn't want to be in a service business. I was back in the service business, except I was making a fifth of the money or 10th of the money. It made no sense. Then we saw Wildfire in the US that was doing contest and promotion on Facebook as a platform. And we saw that, Ben and I, my co-founder and I, were, oh, that's exactly what we want to be doing. It's a product, it is software, let's go do that. And we platformized everything we had done as an agency. The agency business, the good thing is it's bringing money in. So you have that money to sustain whatever SaaS efforts, software you want to build in the background. So we had that first business that fueled a little bit of cash that was paying the developers. And then we had those contests and promotion that fueled a little bit of cash, like very little bit of cash, but it was just enough so we could pay our free developers to platformize all this contest and promotion and start Agorapulse in September of 2011 as basically a Facebook contest and promotion platform. And from there, we realized that it's a very bad business. It's super high churn. We don't want to do that. How do we build something that is not high churn? We need retention. How do you get retention? You have to be the tool of record of someone in a company. How do we be the tool of record of the community people, the social media people? Oh, we got to be social media management. Oh, look, Hootsuite's doing that. Kind of Buffer's doing that. Sprout is, they were all starting, that space was being created in 2011, 2012. And we said, okay, that's what we need to do. So we added Twitter, we added wall management, comment management, publishing. Because we were bootstrapped, it took a long time. That was very, very painful. But eventually around 2014, 15, things, the product, different product bricks started to be put together in a way that was successful and meaningful. And traction came in, and we started to get real traction in 2015. We broke even in 2015, at the end of 2015 at 100K MRR. And in 2016, we kind of 260%. The growth was through the roof. And since then, we've had good growth. We've, some ups and downs, but we've always been profitable since 2015. And that's why we stayed bootstrapped, because we didn't need more money. We were making a profit every single month.
I want to point out some of the principles, and this is what I always like to do, is for other founders listening to this. So you're bootstrapping, but really importantly, what I heard was you're not only are you building product, but as you're building, you're always listening to your customers. So you listen to what they need, and you're willing to go in and become a service provider again. But then you kept iterating. Like, this is a story of 1,000 iterations.
Oh, yeah.
Probably in your mind, it's probably 10,000 iterations of what you threw against the wall or what you brainstormed or workshopped up with your team. But then eventually you found that product market fit. And so, I'm curious, if you're advising other founders, because you talk about just a journey of long suffering, consistency, resilience, and absolute stubbornness on your part, which has paid off. Like, what made you learn how to do this? Like, so many founders, what they do is they get stuck on an idea and they say, I got this vision to change the world and I only want to build this. And if someone tells them, hey, could you do this for us? Or this would really solve one of our problems, they just completely ignore it. Like, what advice would you give, or how did you learn how to do that?
Well, I think necessity is a big teacher, because when you absolutely have to do it to make some money, then you're forced into doing this. We probably would have never done those Facebook contests and promotion back in 2010, 2009, 2010, if we had been in a comfortable business situation. We probably would have ignored it. No, we don't do that. No, we do dedicated communities for brands. Sorry. Do you want to do that for Formula One? No, I'm not interested. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye. Because that was that. We did it for the FIA's Formula One and WRC, that Facebook contest. So the necessity of getting something, of making money, is going to force you to listen. And it's usually a good idea to listen to customers. You know, a lot of people have learned that. I'm one of them. I also think that bootstrapping is actually a great school. It's hard. It's very hard, but it's a great school because you can't make too many mistakes, or at least you can't make too expensive mistakes. You just don't have the money to make expensive mistakes, period. And what I've seen from people who have a lot of money or raise a lot of money, their mistakes are so freaking expensive. I mean, when they make mistakes, it's like, oh, it's €100,000 mistake. Woo, 100,000 mistake? Are you sure? I would tell you that now that we're 1.6 million a month, we make 80,000 mistake. $80,000 mistake. We make them now. So, but we make them out of our recurring revenue. So it's less bad, because next month I will make that 80,000 again, so I can make another mistake, or maybe make something at 80,000 that actually work. But when you're making that mistake with fund money you've raised, that money goes away and never comes back. So it's really, really hard. I'm not going to give a name because I respect the confidence that I got from him, but a founder who did create a company that everybody here would recognize and know, told me once that, and who raised, I think it was 20 or 30 million, told me once that he felt that 75% of that money had been wasted. 75%. And again, it's a founder everybody know, it's a business everybody know, and it's people saw that in the press, whatever, raised 30 million, amazing, everybody bragged about it, champagne, fiesta, and everything. They wasted 75%. According to the CEO and the founder, they wasted 75% of that money. And that does not surprise me. I think the more you have, the more you waste. And the careless is probably a very hard word, but you may become careless a little bit if you have too much.
And that's the reason you see so many really great companies come out of recessions. You come out of those market squeezes where everybody has to think it's not the party anymore, with access to unlimited capital leads to undisciplined decisions. Now they're all responsible because everything's clamped down, and they actually build companies, with the resources they have. So then you hit this inflection point. I'm sure you've got institutional capital. I'm sure you've got people kind of throwing money at you. What's that journey been like?
Yeah, I have emails from VCs or PE firms. I don't know, probably once a week. So that's 50 emails over a year. And I've been having them since 2015 or 16 for sure. In the early days, I was politely responding, not a good time, yada, yada, yada. And then I realized that it's a waste of my time. So I just moved them to a folder just in case one day, but I'm ignoring them. One thing we did though in 2019 is we had a business banker who came to us. He had sold a company from that a friend was the CEO of, and he probably asked my friend, do you know anybody I should be talking to? And my friend probably, hey, go talk to Emeric. So he came to see us and he told us, you need to sell the company. It's 2019, money's flowing everywhere. The valuation are crazy. And, I thought long and hard about it. And we were, I don't know, I think maybe 7 million, between 6 and 7 million AR, something like that. And I thought long and hard, and I said, you heard my story. I went through hell, and now I was at 6-7 million AR, and it was working, and I was growing. And I said, "Fuck no, I'm not selling. There's no way. I'm having fun now. Why would I sell something that's providing for me, that's paying me well, that's giving me a ton of opportunities to learn and meet amazing people? Why would I sell that? Like, I know I'm not selling." And then I went on and talked to one of my mentor in the US, and he told me, "Emeric, everything you're telling me makes perfect sense. You shouldn't sell. But if you're not taking money off the table now, you're stupid." I said, "What do you mean?" "Well, you should take money off the table." "How do you do that if you're not selling the company?" "Oh, the way you do that, you do secondary. So you find investors who are happy to buy some of the existing stock, but not put money in the company." I said, "Oh, I didn't know that existed." I said, "Yeah, it does, and not everybody does it. Some VCs hate it, but some people do it." So we started that process, and in 2019 we did raise money, but all of that money was secondary. And some of it went to exit the 3 business angels I told you about. One of them had been with us for 20 years, believe it or not. Yeah, it's
Wow.
crazy. They're all friends. So,
Sure.
I've invested in friends' businesses. When you give them 15K, you forget about them, because you say, I've lost them. They're gone. I'm not going to see that money again. So that's the kind of mindset you have when you invest 10K or 15K in a friend business. And I think they were in that mindset. I was going on vacation with them. There was absolutely no resentment or anything if that thing would have gone bankrupt or anything. But so we exited them, and my co-founder and we took some cash off the table. And for the first time at 47 years old, I bought my first house. I didn't own a house before, so now
Wow.
I have one. And that gave me the ability to re-risk again, like to go back and say, okay, let's go big or go home. Let's create something meaningful. Let's take more risk. And I think that was a very, very smart thing that was a very, very good advice from my mentor, and a very, very smart decision for us to do. Thinking retrospect, I think every founder, especially bootstrap founder, when they get to some level of success, they should cash out a little bit, and they should probably do that every 2 or 3 years to keep reaping the benefits of their work and the asset that they've built, and feel like they can go again because they've de-risked themselves.
That's only possible, or let me not generalize, but that can become untenable or impossible if you're locked up with VC money and all these things. A lot of times founders are diluted so much by a certain point in time, they got nothing to put on the table so someone can take it off the table. And so you gave yourself those options. For you, it was about ultimate autonomy and to be able to, write your own ticket, if you will, on the lifestyle that you wanted. Okay. So here's what I'd like to do, because I've had some amazing conversations and I see the way that you talk to founders, and clearly you're a student of, startups, lifelong learner of startups. So first, I'm going to bullet you a whole bunch of questions that I know founders are going to ask. But first, what's next for you? Like, what are you thinking about as far as Agorapulse and your next moves? What are you planning?
So what I mentioned earlier, the fact that we build that unique value prop of helping marketers and head of marketing and CMOs and VP of marketing to prove the ROI and the business impact of social media, which is something we're the only company doing. I am in this to disrupt the social media management market, the social media tool market. And I hired an amazing CMO who just joined us because he was excited by that perspective, disrupting that market. And so we're all in doing everything we can because we're having fun doing it. Whether it works or it doesn't work, it doesn't really matter at this point to me. What matters to me is the fun we're having trying to build that disruption and that business case. Doing it with a team, I absolutely, totally enjoy doing it with. That is number one on my list. Remember one thing, I am 50 next month. So my values are probably different than when you're 27 or 32 or whatever. They're definitely different now than when I was 27 or 32. So now for me, more than the money and the success and the bling bling of, the millions of dollars you can get at the end of the day, it's the pleasure I take on a daily basis to wake up and do what I do. It's the people I'm doing it with. And it's the thing, the projects I can project myself into, like, oh, in 1 year, we can be there. We can be that, we can build that. We can become this. And It's, human beings are built on hope and projections, like projecting yourself in a better future. So if you can't do that, then you're happy, and that's the foundation for happiness. So for me, that's the next thing. The next thing is, let's have fun, do that. Let's play the business game and do that. I keep telling my team, don't be stressed, don't be anxious, because we're going through a tough time. There's a recession, B2B sales are tough, the market is tense, people are fighting for budget. It is not easy. I'm not going to lie to you. May and June have been very challenging months, and July is also a challenging month. It's challenging in a profitable company that still has some growth. So it's the kind of challenge millions of people would love to have, but challenging for us because the growth is not what it used to be, and we're fighting against that. And some of my team members, especially my head of sales, they're like a little stressed, like, oh my God, I'm not hitting my numbers, my quota and everything. I say, this is what's happening. What's the plan? Focus on the plan. Keep your eyes on the prize. We're going somewhere, and that's what matters. It's what do we do to get where we want to get. We get there 3 months late, that's fine. Nobody's going to die, but consider this as what matters, and consider that you're doing this as a game. This is a game. We're playing the game of business. No life is at stake. We're not doing cardiac surgery. Nobody's going to die if our growth is only 30% this year and not 40%. Yes, it's important. Yes, we are all winners, and we want to win, and we want to get to our numbers, and we are high achievers and all that stuff. But don't let that eat yourself from the inside. Like, just keep thinking it's a game. It's a game in the game of business, and you're doing that because you're having fun doing it. So for me, the next step is, as long as I'm having fun doing it, and there's something for me to project myself into, I'm in.
Again, I want to point out for all the founders listening who may be thinking, wow, this is so great, I'd love to be in that situation. A lot of this is possible, one, because of Emeric's disposition and his perspective and reframing things, but a lot of his energy doesn't have to go in managing VC, people on his board, things like that. He can put it into you can put it into your employees, which is fantastic. What's your opinion about social media today in general? I'm just curious. You look at the landscape, what's happened. You watch the transition of MySpace to Facebook and, different things like that. What are your thoughts?
You want me to go controversial, don't you?
Give me something.
Yeah, I'm going to give you something. I don't use social media myself. I should probably be using it more for the business, and I'm planning on doing that, but it's probably going to be mostly focused on LinkedIn, because that's where I see the most interesting conversations, interactions, engagement, and everything. I am absolutely alarmed by some of the stuff I see in the more B2C, like, on Facebook or TikTok or sometimes Instagram. I see sometimes I see the worst of people, and I'm not very happy to be exposed to that. That's why I'm not using those anymore. And for a personal use. As a business owner who has a business that runs on social, I see what social can do for you when you do it right. And that's what I'm excited about. I'm not excited about the worst of humanity that you see on social sometimes, like all the trolls and all the very poor quality, low life videos of, oh my God, this is awful. What am I looking at? Why did I spend the last 20 minutes? Why did I waste the last 20 minutes of my life going through that feed of videos that are absolute nonsense? That part of social media, I'm not excited about. But there is a part of social media that works for businesses, and there are businesses that are really getting value out of that. That's what I'm excited about. So when you ask me what's your usage of social media, my usage of social media is very business oriented. How can I make this amazing for business? And if a business can be amazing at TikTok, then let's find a way to do that and to help them do that. But at a personal level, I'm not using TikTok because I'm not excited by what I see all the time on TikTok. And I'm not judging that. It just doesn't work for the 50-year-old me. Maybe it works for, but that's funny. I have a 21-year-old son, and I asked him what's his use of social media, and he told me the same thing. He said, no, I'm not going on TikTok. It's a waste of time. So maybe it's a question of generation. Maybe it's a question of something else. Maybe it's just a question of different types of people. There's absolutely no judgment, but it doesn't work well for me. And what works well for me is meaningful, deep, interesting conversations, and I see more of that in LinkedIn And it's also because I'm an entrepreneur and I'm obsessed by building businesses. So LinkedIn is kind of more in my line of business and in my interest. But that's my own thing. That's my own use of the thing. I absolutely, again, no judgment. I used Facebook a lot in the past, but the reason I stopped using Facebook is very simple. I was posting a lot of stuff on Facebook, and because I was traveling a lot, I'm kite surfing. I'm a big kite surf fan, so I was going places, going kite surfing. Had amazing pictures of me on the beach in Mauritius and Florida and the Caribbean, and doing business travel in the US and going all these amazing places. And people were like, "Oh my God, what an amazing life you have!" Well, but I'm just showing the amazing side of the life on social, like a lot of us do. And when I was posting these photos, then a lot of people were coming in and commenting, "Oh, it's amazing. Come see me. I'm here and do that. Did you go there? Blah, 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 blah." And like I had like 25, 30, 35, 40 comments on the post. And then I started to feel the pressure of I have to go back and engage back and thank people and like their thing. And I remember boarding on a plane, taking a picture of my destination, and I'm going there, and then starting to feel the weight and the pressure of all the engagement that would come later. And I would have to check in the plane or as soon as I land, and I remember I see myself in that plane thinking, why am I doing this to myself? Why am I creating that burden where I don't have to? And from that day forward, I stopped posting on Facebook. This is crazy because I felt my life is too full. I have a wife, I have 2 kids, I have a business to run, I have friends. I can't, it doesn't fit. There's not enough room to, to keep reacting to that social engagement. So that's my personal story. Again, absolutely no judgment. I appreciate everybody who does that because thanks to them, we have a business. But on a personal level, it doesn't fit with my lifestyle. So only LinkedIn does.
Then what do you think about talking about Facebook shift to Meta, maybe a broader question, like what do you think is the next killer app or the next era? What about Web3, blockchain, all that stuff? What are you thinking if you in the future and you're telling maybe some VCs or the rest of us that are looking to get into, other technologies, what do you think is the next innovation in the space?
In the social space, in people, first of all, I'm not great at predicting the future. I've never been great. What I'm great at is reading the current situation and finding opportunities in that current situation. That I'm good at. What I would say about that is what social has created that used to be forums. Then the very first version of that was email in 1995. What it has created is suddenly our ability to communicate, interact with each other, discover people. Like, yeah, you're on the West Coast, right? Are you in San Fran? I'm not even sure where you're.
I'm in Canada. I'm in the mountains.
You're in Canada. Okay,
yeah.
So that I just insulted you telling you that you were American. My CMO is from Canada. If I tell him he's American, I think he's going to quit. He's going to send me his resignation letter. So you're in Canada. I'm in Paris, France, and we do this. That's social. Like that's what social media allowed as a whole. If you take it as a global thing, Zoom is a social media tool. Everything that allows you to be to interact with people who are far away or not so far, but you don't see very often, is social media. This is not going away anytime. There's no way this is going away. This is what human beings are built for. Human interactions with each other. If you put someone in a cave for a year, they kill themselves. We can't live without interactions with our world. A few people can, but these are really weird. Most of us, we need to interact. We need to chat. We need to how's your day. We need to feel that people are paying attention to us. We're paying attention to people, and so on and so forth. So what's behind social media is not going away. The form it has today will disappear and will be replaced by something else. There's no question. Facebook replaced MySpace, as we said. It feels like TikTok is replacing something else, and YouTube replaced some other video sharing businesses. It's kind of replacing TV as well. And so the form and how it works will change, evolve, be different. So that's why Meta became Meta, because their vision is the future will be the metaverse and her wearing goggles and stuff like that. Is this going to happen or not? I don't know. But what I know is a lot of people are going to try a lot of different things, and at one point, one will emerge nobody will see it coming, and that will be the next thing. Like nobody saw Facebook coming. I don't know if you saw when Facebook was still small but growing like this, everybody was like, damn, MySpace is the big thing. MySpace is owning the space. MySpace. Nobody was believing Facebook would catch up. When TikTok started, I was also one of them saying, Facebook, and then TikTok, boom, it became huge and nobody saw it coming. Like, let's be honest. Something else, some other things will keep coming and we'll take over that. And eventually they'll have to have an API, like TikTok just released an API and say, okay, we have to have an ecosystem. We have to let businesses use us with the other social networks. So that logic we are building on is not going away. The challenge for us, it keeps changing, evolving, and that forces us to adapt, which is quite expensive and difficult to do. So that's our challenge. And we need to add more value on top of whatever these platforms do natively. And that's our second challenge. Hence the unique positioning of we're helping you see the value of what you create and what you do on social. But my bet, I would bet everything I have today that in 10 years, there's still social media. I don't know exactly what it looks like, but it's still there. People are still interacting online. People are still fighting on Trump versus whoever else it will be at the time. And that will not go away because human beings are built to communicate with each other and get excited and get angry and have that conversation going online or offline.
Okay, so then let's talk about, there's the future. Let's talk about the here and now. You've met a lot of the founders. You come to our groups at startups.com. Knowing those founders, you said something earlier about, hey, find out what works for you. So if TikTok works for your business, you're excited about social for business. What advice would you give to a founder just getting started on how to go through that journey of finding, that social media strategy? Because there's so many options out there. What do you recommend?
Well, first of all, the question is too broad. Someone who is just getting started, there's so many options. There's so many things you could give an advice on. Like what I advise, the real advice I would give that person is find 1 or 2 mentors and go sit with them 1 hour a week for 50 weeks, and you'll get where you need eventually. But if there's, I can only give you the piece of advice that I got recently. The number one thing is you have to love what you do. You have to have fun doing what you do, because you're not going to make a lot of money. And the probability of you becoming a millionaire doing that are very low. Let's face it. It's very low. So if all you want to do is become a millionaire or make a lot of money, you're going to be miserable very quickly. So love what you do for doing it, for the sake of doing it. Also realize that the level of risk that you're taking is very low, because what you learn as you create a business is something you can go sell to a company for a very high salary right after that. So once I realized that, whatever I do, I can go to Facebook and get a 200K a year job. Oh, that's my risk? Oh, okay, fine, I'm good. That's not a risk. A risk is starving, not paying my rent. That's a risk. Losing my wife because I don't have any more money to feed her and my kids. That's a risk. That's not going to happen to someone who's been trying to build a business. I'll always find a job at a company for a very, very comfortable salary. That's the second thing. Think of risk differently. Like, look at risk in a reasonable way, not in a crazy emotional, I'm afraid kind of way. The third thing is, think about, in 2022, most spaces are crowded. So it's probably likely that the space you're going to enter you're not the first one. You're not creating a new category. And by the way, creating categories, and it's a whole different discussion, but is really, really hard. Creating a category takes a lot of money. You probably have to raise VC money to do that. So you're probably entering a space that's crowded. Think about the vertical you can serve best and go super narrow, super niche, super specialized. Number one. Number two, think about the voice you can have on that market that's a little controversial, that's very unique, and that's very different. No, that Ed Ken guy is saying something about startups I've never heard before. He's basically saying VCs are awful and you should go bootstrap. I'm saying this. You wouldn't be the only one saying that. A lot of other people say that now. But go back 2015 and go say VCs are horrible. That was Basecamp was saying all the time. And Basecamp was heard. The Basecamp founders they got the attention because they were saying something that was going against what everybody else was saying. So find that voice that's a little different, and that makes you like, a little more interesting than the average. And then crank content. with that voice, with a long form piece of content. If you're comfortable writing, go Medium. If you're comfortable videoing and interviewing, do a podcast, interview people, do video, do audio, but have that long form piece of content where that voice that is different, that sounds like, oh, that's interesting. I've never heard that before. And then cut that down in small pieces and distribute that through LinkedIn, through Twitter, through social, every way you can, in video, in text, in audio, in quotes, and pictures with motivational whatever, and create a level of visibility that's overwhelming people. With that, I keep seeing this guy, this girl here and there about that interesting topic. There must be something about them. And then you create, by doing that, you create demand. And that's a distinction I didn't have before, that I understood thanks to a guy who was quite controversial and doing all of the things I just described. His name is Chris Walker, and his company is Refine Labs, and he has a podcast that's called The State of Demand Gen. And what he's basically saying is, demand gen, people when people think about demand gen, they get confused about demand capturing and demand creation, and they don't see the difference between the two. SEO is demand capture. Google Ads is demand capture. A webinar is demand capture. Having a free trial on your website is demand capture. Having a get a demo button on your website is demand capture. This is not demand creation. If all you're doing is capturing demand, you're fighting with everybody else in your space who's trying to capture the same demand that's already existing on the market. If you want to grow and be big and be successful, you have to create demand. You have to make people aware of what you sell, what you do, the value you have for them. People who were not even looking for you. We're not even looking for a solution. We were barely thinking they had a pain. And suddenly they listen to you and they say, shit, I have a pain. I do. Yeah, the guy's right. This is painful. Oh, yeah, that solution sounds like something I'd like to have. I was not thinking about that. Let's go check it out. And maybe it's not happening now, maybe it's happening in 6 months, but you've created something that did not exist. And by doing that, now they're looking for you. They're not looking for all the competition that's fighting and have a price contest at the end of the day to try to get that existing demand on SEO or Google Ads or anything like that. So that would be my third advice. That's my latest learning. So that's why I like sharing it.
That was like an entire course in 10 minutes. That was gold. I'm going to break that out and, make some clips of what you shared. That was amazing. Last question. And, in 1 minute, you probably have an answer to this. I think this would be a tough question. If you had to go back and you talked about how your mind has changed and how you do things different. If you had to give founders one piece of advice based on how you would do things different to get to where you are today, what would it be?
How would I get things different to get to where I am today? What piece of advice would I give myself? Yeah. That's a hard one, because the real advice I should have given myself between 2001 and 2008 or 9 is, you need to freaking give up. This is awful. You're hurting yourself, and go back to lawyering and make money and buy that BMW and that fancy house of yours. So it would have been a crappy advice, because eventually this would have prevented me from having the life I wanted to have and having the success I was looking forward to. The piece of advice I would probably give is get mentors, get surrounded by people and go out, ask them. You're going to find it funny. Nobody comes to me and asks me for advice on stuff that I'm the right person. Well, not nobody, but very few people do that. And I think people overestimate the difficulty of getting mentors, and they don't even try. And I have been in that position as well myself. And I think you should get that advice from people who've been there, done that before you. Don't go too far, because if you're just starting your business and you come to me for advice, I'm going to be too high up there. Like, sure. It's going to be too complicated for you. You would need to come to me when I was at 2-3 millions. If you're just starting, then I was the right mentor. Now I'm up there. So now I'd be a good mentor to someone who's at 4 or 5 millions. I want to get to 10, 15. That would probably be the right. So find that person who is right at the next step, and you can extract value from them. That would be my biggest advice. I'm trying to think of something useful that I could share as well. but I'm not sure it's useful. But all the advice I've been given of the mistakes I shouldn't be doing or I should be making, I made all of them. For example, it takes you too long to fire the not A players in your team. You kept that person for too long. You hear that. How many times have you heard that advice, Ed?
Oh,
Frankly, honestly,
like
like 100
every
times,
month.
like
Yeah.
every month for the
Yeah.
last 10 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I've made that mistake. Same. I heard that advice as much as you did. But I had to feel the pain in my bones and flesh to, okay, this is how painful this is. And this is why this advice is flying around. So at the end of the day, that would be my other advice. Don't pay too much attention to all the common sense advice that you're going to get, because eventually you have to go through those pains to really understand what they mean and why you shouldn't be doing that. It's all those mistakes that you make, you have to make them. Embrace that. Embrace the mistake. Embrace failing. It's hard as fuck, but you have to embrace it, because there's no other way to learn. At least there's no other way to learn the hard things. I love that book, The Hard Things About Hard Things. I think everybody in the space has read the book and enjoyed the book. But the one learning from the book is you have to go through hard times to become who you have to become. That's it. Number one, you have to become someone you're not today to take your company to the next level. The next level of your company requires someone you're not today, and you have to become that someone. And to become that someone, you have to go through pain. That's it. And you have to enjoy that. Isn't that crazy?
Just a little crazy.
Just a little crazy.
Just a little
Back to
crazy.
square one when we started this interview, and I told you, us entrepreneurs, we're a little crazy, because it's really, really hard to go through all that pain and process and enjoy the process, but you have to go through that. And I think the ultimate answer to that is you have to look at it as a game. And in order to look at it as a game, you have to see fear for what it is. It's something that your emotion make up. You're actually not risking anything for real. Once that goes away, then you can see that as a game and have fun playing it instead of being afraid of losing.
It's absolutely amazing. I'm speechless. It's like talking to you has been drinking water out of a fire hose, but it's refreshing. I appreciate everything that you shared. I want to just acknowledge you and thank you for how generous that you've been in our groups. For those who are wondering, we spend time in groups, founder groups, and we have a very special group that's near and dear to my heart in terms of CEOs that are trying to scale their business. And Emeric always has been so generous. You've been so generous with just sharing and transparent and vulnerable and very direct, which is what I really love. I hope we have many more conversations like this. I just want to say thank you so much.
My pleasure, Ed. Have an amazing day.